You know what I miss? I miss the feeling of being a little bit lost, not scared lost, just unsure. That beautiful uncertainty when you didn't know exactly what was around the next bend. These days, everyone's got their faces buried in their phones, following that little blue dot like it's the only truth in the world. But let me tell you something. We used to find our way just fine without any of that. And the journey, oh, the journey was so much richer. My name is Frances Walker. I'm 59 years old, a retired school teacher from a little town in Ohio you've probably never heard of. And today, I want to take you back with me, back to a time when traveling across this country meant something entirely different, when getting there was half the adventure, and sometimes the best part. So settle in, pour yourself some coffee or tea, and let me tell you how we really did it. It was the summer of 1983. I was 16 years old, and my family was about to drive from our home in Dayton, Ohio, all the way to San Francisco, California, 2,300 miles. My father had saved up for 2 years to take us on this trip. My mother was nervous. My little brother, Tommy, was bouncing off the walls with excitement. And me? I was somewhere in between, clutching my spiral notebook, ready to document everything. The night before we left, I remember watching my father at the kitchen table under that yellow overhead light. He had this enormous road atlas spread out in front of him, the kind that was thick as a phone book, page after page of colored lines, tiny town names, little symbols for rest stops and scenic overlooks. He had a yellow highlighter, and he was tracing our route state by state, highway by highway. My mother stood behind him with a notepad, writing down every turn, every highway number, every town where we might stop for gas or food. That atlas wasn't just a book. It was our lifeline. It was our plan. It was our only way of knowing where we were going. I remember asking my father, "What if we get lost?" And he looked up at me with this calm smile and said, "Frances, getting lost is part of the trip. That's how you find things you weren't looking for." We left at dawn. The car was a '79 Ford LTD, cream-colored with brown vinyl seats that stuck to your legs in the heat. My father loaded the trunk with suitcases, a cooler full of sandwiches, and a cardboard box with the atlas, a flashlight, extra maps from the AAA office, and something called a triptych. You probably don't even know what that is anymore. It was a spiral-bound booklet that AAA made just for you, with your exact route broken down into strips of maps, page by page, turn by turn. My mother kept it in her lap the whole trip. She was the navigator. That was her job. My father drove. My mother navigated. Tommy and I sat in the back, watching America go by through the windows. The first day, we made it through Indiana and into Illinois. Flat farmland, endless cornfields, big open sky. My mother would call out every so often, "Okay, in about 15 miles, we're going to merge onto Route 74 West." My father would nod. She'd watch the mile markers. Then she'd say, "This is it. Here's the turn." No robot voice, no screen, just her voice and his hands on the wheel, and trust. We stopped for gas in a little town outside of Peoria. I don't even remember the name, but I remember the gas station. It was old, with 2 pumps out front and a bell that dinged when you drove over the hose. Inside, there was a man behind the counter, maybe 60 years old, wearing a John Deere cap. My father went in to pay, and I followed because I wanted a soda. While my father was counting out bills, he asked the man, "What's the best way to get to Iowa from here?" And that man pulled out a paper napkin and drew a little map right there on the counter. He said, "You take this road here. Stay on it about 30 miles. You'll see a grain silo painted blue. Can't miss it. Turn left there. That'll get you to the interstate." My father thanked him. We got back in the car. And you know what? We found that blue silo. We made that turn, and it was perfect. That's how it worked. You asked people, you trusted strangers, you paid attention. Somewhere in Nebraska, we got turned around. My mother had misread the map, or maybe my father missed a turn. Either way, we ended up on a 2-lane road that didn't match anything in the triptych. The sun was starting to set. Tommy was asleep. I was getting nervous. My father pulled into a gravel parking lot next to a diner. It was one of those places with a neon sign that said eats and a screen door that slaps shut behind you. We went inside. There were maybe 4 people in there. My mother asked the waitress very politely, "Do you know how we can get back to Interstate 80?" The waitress smiled. She said, "Oh, honey, you're not far. You just go back the way you came, about 3 miles. Take a right at the Red Barn, follow that road until you see the overpass. You'll be fine." She didn't even charge us for the coffee she poured. We sat there for 20 minutes eating pie, and when we left, we knew exactly where we were going. That wrong turn gave us one of the best moments of the trip. The deeper we got into the West, the bigger everything felt. In Colorado, the mountains rose up like walls on either side of the highway. My father kept pulling over at scenic overlooks. Even when my mother said we needed to keep moving, he'd get out, stretch his legs, light a cigarette, and just stare. He'd say, "Look at that, just look at that." We didn't take 100 photos. We didn't record videos. We just looked. We stood there and let it fill us up. I remember one night we stayed at a little motel in Grand Junction. It had a blinking vacancy sign and a pool with leaves floating in it. After dinner, I sat outside on the curb with my notebook, writing down everything I'd seen that day: the mountains, the colors of the rock, the way the air smelled different. My father came and sat next to me. He said, "You're going to remember this trip for the rest of your life, Frances. Not because of where we're going, but because of how we got there." He was right. We finally made it to San Francisco on day 6. We drove over the Golden Gate Bridge with the windows down, and my mother cried a little, and my father laughed, and Tommy shouted, "We made it, we made it." We stayed for 3 days, Fisherman's Wharf, Alcatraz, riding the cable cars. It was wonderful, but honestly, the drive there was just as good, maybe better. On the way home, we took a different route. My father wanted to see Utah, so we did. We drove through Zion, through red rock canyons that looked like they belonged on another planet. We stopped at little roadside fruit stands. We talked to people. We got lost twice more, and both times someone helped us. By the time we got back home to Ohio, the atlas was dog-eared and stained with coffee rings. My mother's triptych was covered in notes and extra directions she'd written in the margins. And I had a notebook full of stories. I kept that notebook. I still have it. Sometimes when I'm sitting in my living room and I see my grandkids staring at their phones, I think about that trip. I think about how we didn't have a single screen telling us where to go. We had paper, we had people, we had patience. These days, you can pull up directions to anywhere in 3 seconds. You never have to wonder. You never have to ask. You never have to stop and unfold a map on the hood of your car and squint at it in the sun while someone walks over and says, "You folks need help." I'm not saying the old way was better. I mean, I use GPS too now. It's convenient, it's fast, but something got lost along the way. That feeling of discovery, that willingness to be uncertain, the conversations with strangers, the wrong turns that turned into memories. We used to navigate by landmarks, by instinct, by asking. And you know what? We made it every time. Sometimes it took longer. Sometimes we ended up somewhere we didn't plan, but we made it. And the journey was everything. So if you've made it this far with me, thank you. Thank you for letting an old teacher take you back in time for a few minutes. Maybe it made you think of a trip you took, or a time when things were slower, or a moment when you got a little bit lost and it turned out just fine. If you've got a story like that, I'd love to hear it. Leave it in the comments. Let's remember together. And if you enjoyed this, maybe share it with someone who might need the reminder that sometimes not knowing exactly where you're going is the whole point. Take care of yourselves. And every now and then, put the phone down and just look around. You might be surprised what you find.